afternoon, family. We are back, as promised, to welcome back to Mindful Moments Podcast. I am, again, very pleased to be here. I hope y'all had a good week. But yeah, I want to dive deep into some stuff today. It's so crazy, y'all, because I've been thinking about so many different topics since the last time that we met, right? Um, and there's always things going through my mind, through my head, in terms of, hey, what should we talk about? What disparities and what things do people struggle with on a day-to-day basis? And so I really wanted to be sure to, hit on some hot topics, some things that I noticed and identify that individuals struggle with. Right, so let me tell you about my week first of all before we get into anything. Um, it's been crazy. It's only what? Is this Monday? I think it's Monday only. And so, but it's all good. God is good. And one day at a time, right? That's what I always tell people. I was like, one day at a time. And nothing less, nothing more, right? You don't have to have everything figured out. In many cases, we feel that we do, but I'm here to remind you that you do not have to have everything figured out. It is so amazing how God allows us to put together like this agenda or calendar, and then we feel in our mind that we're going to stick to it when we only find out that, you know what, He's already gone before us, and so that thing that we planned may not work out accordingly. So something that I just kind of really been on my heart really strong is simply fear and anxiety. Yep. I want to talk about fear and anxiety today. I'm going to slow down just a little bit because this time is for you. To engage, to come on in. I'm giving you just a little bit because y'all might see the show is on and maybe you're just getting home and you're having to, get ready for the next day. But I really want you to chime in to this topic on fear and anxiety. I don't even want to call it a topic. I want to call it a conversation. Today, I did tell you guys that I will have guests on today. Occasionally when we're on the show. Today is just going to be you and I again. I kind of enjoyed our time last week when we were together and we spoke about mental health and everything that it includes pretty much and what to look for. That's a little recap. But today we're going to talk about fear and anxiety. And I must admit that as a professional, as an expert, that when I say those two words, I too kind of get a little like, I don't know, it kind of gives me like this feeling of uncertainty a little bit. And the reason that I say that is because, with fear and anxiety, something that we struggle with every day. Sometimes we don't know why we're feeling like the anxiety that we're feeling. And sometimes we do know, right? Sometimes something may have triggered us. That we weren't aware that was a trigger. And so we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's just talk about it, right? Like, what does fear mean to you? What does anxiety mean to you? How do they connect and how do they correlate together? Do they at all? They definitely do. They definitely do. Fear is a word that I like to talk about in the sense of, why do we fear? What do we fear? And why does this emotion of anxiety, why is that tied to our fear? Well, I kind of said the word a little bit ago and I said uncertainty. We don't know what the outcome is going to be of something, right? Let me give you an example. And I like to use me as an example, especially if I'm here by myself. But I kind of like to talk about me a little bit, right? Like in the sense of I'm letting you know that you're not alone. And first of all, let me just say, just because I'm a clinician does not mean that I haven't endured things. Doesn't mean that I have not had fearful moments. No, that's not what that means. I'm human too. I'm in the fleshly body as well. So back to fear. I like to talk about it in terms of us as people. Fear is something that we often experience with other people. We see other people living in a fearful light. We see that we refrain. People don't have imperative conversations. They don't go places that they know that they should go or want to go. Why? Because of what? The four-letter word. Fear. Fear. Right? I don't know what he or she is going to think about me. I don't know what our relationship will be after I have this serious conversation with my best friend who I thought it was my best friend, right? But now these things have been bothering me, and I'm holding on to those things, those feelings, those emotions, the circumstance, the issue, whatever may have happened or occurred. I'm holding on to it in my heart because I now don't think that we will be best friends as we were before. Or I don't know how my mother or my father will think of me if I expose to them how I'm feeling related to the trauma that I felt that I went through as a child. Or I don't know how my children are going to respond or react to me. So rather than me being a parent and having that imperative conversation with them, I'm just going to hold it in and act like it's not even a thing, or act like I'm kind of cool with it. Right? Right. Because of fear. We avoid certain things. We avoid doing certain things, saying certain things, having certain conversations, going certain places primarily because we are afraid. Fear. And because we experience fear, because we feel the feeling of fear, what now is attached to fear? Anxiety. Now I can't sleep at night. Now I can't think straight. Now I'm shaking a little bit. Now my thoughts are roaming and racing, which are two terrible feelings. So they're roaming and racing because now I've developed this thing called anxiety related to me being fearful. So you may ask, are they tied together? Are they connected? Absolutely. You may now be feeling like, you know what? I've done this for a long time. I've refrained from doing or saying things a long time, primarily because of fear. Fear has had a chokehold on you. Okay? And it does for many people. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason that it does for many people is primarily because individuals are not taught to have healthy conversations related to what they identify as a problem or something that they do not like, right? That has something to do with someone else. So rather than going on ahead and having that imperative conversation, that's my favorite word, y'all, imperative, so important. But instead, rather than having that imperative conversation, what happens? We hold on to it. We hold on to it and we keep it. Not just for a year, not just for a week, not just for a day, not even for an hour. We hold on to it for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25, 30 years. And sometimes, guess what happens? Because we hold on to so much, guess what happens? It piles. One problem on top of the other. One issue on top of the next issue. Right? Until we're older. And then what happens when we become older? Other health conditions are now created. I'm going to say this. And as I'm speaking about this right now, fear and anxiety, and how it can turn into another diagnosis, right? Like depression. And it can create isolation. Okay? These things are real and they happen to the person right next to us. It happens to our grandparents. It happens to our parents. I'm going to give you guys a real good example. Many of you know that my grandmother is, I have a grandmother. She's my, late grandmother at this moment. She's deceased. She is near and dear to my heart. She will forever hold, oh my God, so much of my heart. She was just that special. And I must admit that when I look at her life, like, she was just such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful human being. And a lot of times I just looked at all the things that she did. I looked at all the things that she encountered over the years, the things told and the things untold. Because you understand that some things just were not spoken of in those days, right? And that's another conversation. But because of that, she thought that, oh my, I can bear it. I mean, through her action, this is just what I can imagine. And she was just such a selfless person, that grandmother would just try to do it, and she did it well, is what it seemed like. And then she began to lose children. And these are things that I could identify and remember growing up and as a young adult. And she started to lose children that were very, very, all of her children. She had 12 children, just a phenomenal woman. But these particular children that she lost were staples, I tell you, in the family. And I can remember watching the decline and the toll that it took on grandmother. And rather than saying, you know what, I'm hurting, this hurts, I might need to talk to an expert. I may need to go ahead and talk to pastor about this. I may need my children just to come over a little bit more often just to check on me, because I'm really, really hurting. So rather than having that conversation, because she probably was fearful of how people would now identify her or now look at her and portray her to be, probably thought that, you know what, no, I can't be, looked at as like a weak woman, or as a person who can't handle death, or a person who can't handle life circumstances, or a person who can't handle somebody, getting very upset and betraying me or something like that. I don't want anybody to know that I'm hurting related to a situation or circumstance. So she held on to it. She held on to it. She held on to it for years and years and years, until her body just couldn't take it no more. Her body can take it no more. And so what happened with that is, well, then that's when, you have health decline, and, different health conditions may be created because of that, such as dementia, Alzheimer's, or depression, or any of those, all of those things can be created because of that, right? Because we hold on to things. We do not have the conversation. We do not find a safe space. We do not trust anyone enough to say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling right now. Like, I need help through this. It doesn't mean that I'm less of a woman. It doesn't mean that I'm less of a man. Hey, A, I'm afraid. No, A, I have an issue. B, here it is where I am. This is where I'm at with it. And then C, I'm afraid of how you're going to perceive me. So what we gonna do? That's the conversation, right? It's fearful. It's fearful. It's scary. And then we can take it an extension further. Look at society today, you guys. You kind of spoke about kids last week. What's happening right now? Kids not standing boldly to who they are ethically and morally, because they are afraid of now not being, being a part of the crowd or not fitting in. They're afraid. It ultimately boils down to fear. So what are we seeing? We're seeing kids hurt themselves. We're seeing kids not stand up for themselves. We see kids bullying other kids because they're projecting what they are internalizing related to fear. Right? And not to include all of the other things that's attached to it, such as anxiety, which is what we're talking about today. So afraid that now this thing is going with me as I go to sleep at night. I can't even rest. I can't even rest because what I'm so worried about. I'm so worried about this thing, whatever that thing may be. Fear and anxiety. I encourage you to have a conversation. Whatever is bothering you, whatever is on your mind, whatever you have been holding on to, no matter how ugly that conversation is going to be, no matter, hey, sometimes we are going to lose people along the way because we're standing up for ourselves. That's okay too. Because if you lose someone related to how you feel, that's a problem. That's a problem. So I encourage you to have the conversation. Have the conversation, no matter what it takes. Okay? I brought my book with me today. It is my third writing. It is called Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. What do you see when you look at yourself? So I guess I could have said that this is my guest, because this is my guest because primarily this is self-help. This book dives deep into you discovering who you are, taking a deep dive and soul searching, and know that, guess what? It's okay. We walk through different perspectives, elevation of the mind, self-identity, excuse me, self-recognition, self-credibility, self-love, and the mindset transition. So although I know that this is not easy for many of you, I know that you can do it, right? You have to positively speak and pour into yourself. It's okay to do that. It's okay to do that. I encourage you to do it, because I would hate to see that, you know what, that I'm hearing something, or you come to me, Dr. Watts, you know what, I am such in a bad space. My doctor, I went to the doctor, now they prescribed me X, Y, Z, D, and all of the things. Because we don't want to have a conversation. You guys, it is real. It is real. It is fearful, but I know that you can do it. I know that you can do it. You definitely can. So fear and anxiety, you tell yourself, no more. You cannot reside here. No more. You've held on to me long enough. You deserve to be in a place where you say, you know what? Why am I fearful of expressing who I am? Why am I fearful of identifying that, hey, no, you can't treat me like that anymore? Why am I fearful? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. What am I afraid of? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? It's scary to even think about it. It is. But what I will tell you is that you are your best person to positively change your mindset and move in the right direction. We don't serve a fearful God. Okay? Sometimes we feel like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Why does it keep happening to me over and over and over again? We do have that question. And we do not always have the answer as to why. But I will tell you this. You have the solution in terms of what your future looks like. Okay? I encourage you. I stand with you and behind you. I love each and every one of you. Have that conversation and tell fear you cannot and will not reside here anymore. I love each of you. I am excited to come back next week and dialogue with you again. Have a wonderful, purposeful week. And again, affirm yourself. You have control. And tell yourself, fear, you don't reside here anymore. Take that pen and start to rewrite your own story. I love you. Dr. Watts here. I'll see you next week.